listening to Not So Live from Asteroid G. We have a special presentation today, the fourth of these interviews that I'm doing, and I think right now, because we're going to be doing a podcast recording session after this, the last of these for a little while. It's a special edition here where I'm going to be talking with one of the Final Fantasy randomizer players that I know online. We are chatting here today with Tyerenex?
Tyerenex, yeah.
Okay. I hear people pronounce it like multiple ways.
It can be Tyerenex, it can be Tyerenex. It's just whatever you want to call me.
And I know you. You're actually one of the first people I really started chatting with online when I joined the community. You hit me up for a couple of graphic design layouts for your stream.
You were actually the person who set up my stream layout, and I've gotten quite a bit of good feedback on it. It's like a lot of people are like, "Wow, you got a really nice setup." But yeah, I've been in the Final Fantasy randomizer community for about a year and a half now. Started at the last spring tournament, not the one we just had, but the one before that. I started and been pretty active in it ever since. One of my big hobbies that I do.
Yeah, so what caused you to join up with Final Fantasy Randomizer originally? What drew you into it? Because I know you also do Dragon Warrior Randomizer as well.
Yeah, Final Fantasy Randomizer was the first one that I did. Really, I got into it because Final Fantasy 1 was actually the first video game I ever got in my life when I was 5 years old, I think, when my parents bought me a Nintendo. It had Mario, Duck Hunt, and then they also bought me Final Fantasy. So it's always been like a game that's been really close to my heart. And I think I was like watching, there was just one night I was on YouTube and I was wanting to watch like a playthrough of Final Fantasy 1. And then I came across the randomizer. Now this was 2 spring tournaments ago when everything was happening. And I just kind of watched it from the sideline and I was like, oh, this is really cool. But I didn't really jump in. I was just a viewer. And then last year, I actually had a week of vacation right before the spring tournament, and I just decided to jump in. Like I had a stay-at-home vacation, and I basically just did a bunch of races for a week to kind of get me up to speed, and I got hooked. And then, once Final Fantasy ended, I got into Dragon Warrior Randomizer, and those are really the main 2 that I play. I've been trying to learn Final Fantasy IV Free Enterprise, but that's I don't have as much knowledge with vanilla Final Fantasy IV as I do the other 2 games, so it's been a little tough. But yeah, I mean, there's more than enough stuff going on in those 2 games to keep you quite busy as a hobby, and yeah, it's been a really fun community so far.
People from our generation, I think, the default NES starter set was Final Fantasy and Dragon Warrior, and there's a good chance you got at least one of them from Nintendo Power as well.
And I remember, like, when I was playing Final Fantasy 1 when I was, a kindergartner or whatever, like, I didn't know that you could actually equip items. Like, I knew you could buy stuff, but I didn't realize that you actually got to equip stuff. So I was like running through like the marsh cave, just punching stuff as a fighter, thinking that I had a silver sword or something. And then like I think just one day I accidentally equipped something, and I was like, oh, okay. This is what you actually do.
There's part of that right there. Well, it's not like Dragon Warrior. Dragon Warrior auto-equips everything for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Second you buy it, you're good to go. Final Fantasy is a little more obtuse in some places.
Yeah, and yeah, I never really played a ton of Dragon Warrior 1 when I was a kid. I played 2, 3, and 4. I never really played 1 until I actually started doing a bit of speedrunning of it. I actually played Dragon Warrior Randomizer without ever having completed Dragon Warrior 1, because that randomizer, I don't want to say it's simpler, but there's less objectives. Dragon Warrior Randomizer is more of it's easy to learn, it's really hard to master that game. Like, I could explain how you can complete a Dragon Warrior Randomizer seed in about, 10 minutes. But actually being really good at playing it, it's, it takes years. And, so the guys who are really good, Ness Cardinality, Mr. Holmes, High Spirits,
Dig Shake, Game Boy F9.
Oh, yeah. Like, all these people, they're just great at it. And First tournament I ever played in, I think I've gotten as high as the top 10 in Dragon Warrior Randomizer, and as high as top 5 in Final Fantasy Randomizer. And it's been a lot of fun for me just to like learn. The community's real fun. I made a lot of really good friends, like, you know, Will, Minochi85 I consider a really good friend, Falconic. You know, it has its moments. It's a community like any other community, but yeah, it's been fun so far.
Well, on the subject of Dragon Warrior, because you're the first person I've chatted with here who's extensively in that community at all, the rando community. Part of it is, like, I'm impressed that you actually managed to get through, like, vanilla Dragon Warrior 2 and 3 and 4 before really even bothering with the original one, like, long term.
Yeah.
Because I find that the first one's the only one that's actually, like, really easy to get into. Dragon Warrior 2 is kind of a mean game.
I think I was older by the time I think I was definitely, like, 10 or 11 when I started playing those other games. Yeah, I just never, I might have played it growing up, but I just have no recollection of it whatsoever. And Dragon Warrior Randomizer, completely straightforward. Its main difference from Final Fantasy Randomizer is Final Fantasy Randomizer uses the world map
standard maps
from the vanilla game,
yeah.
Where Dragon Warrior Randomizer just completely, the whole thing is generated randomly. Things are not, you know, chests are completely randomized, where things are completely randomized. So it's like when you play, you're doing a mix between getting experience while you walk and do your exploration, while, you know, there's these different zones and you could walk from one zone to another and things would be 5 times more difficult to kill. So it's, you know, Final Fantasy, it's more about routing to each place to place because you know where everything's going to be.
Yeah.
Dragon Warrior, I mean, it sounds like there's a lot more luck involved, but the people who are really good at it, I mean...
They have a system.
Yeah.
There's a system to exploring the new world map. Plus, you're really looking for very specific dungeons, because while the world map is reorganized, the dungeon themselves are not. Dragon Warrior Randomizer isn't quite as randomized as, like, Zelda 2 Randomizer is.
Yeah, because there's really only, like, 13 chests or something in the game.
Yeah.
So... there's more than that, but like 13 items. So
there's a limited selection. You're really, like, your goal is just to basically get 3 key items and find the armor, a good end game armor and sword. It may not be the Erdrix, but more than likely
you have to have Erdrix armor. That's required.
I have seen some people if the Dragon Lord, that's his name, the end boss, isn't punching particularly bad, because I know he has a range. And if he's not being too bad, you can kind of get away with the magic armor, but you really pretty much need.
You would have to have like an insane amount of MP, because the big thing that it does for you is that first floor, all of, like, the trap tiles that do like 15 damage to you if you don't have it. So that's why it's kind of considered mandatory. So
Erdrix sword is definitely not as necessary if your strength is high enough.
You can beat the game with a bare-fisted if you wanted to, but it helps. But
it does help.
Yeah, you just find those 3 key items, and then you find the cave to put them all together, and then you actually have to find the end place, and then you get through it, and you just kind of... And another big difference between the two games is Dragon Warrior Randomizer is a lot more math dependent. Final Fantasy has huge range of getting crits. You know, you could hit with a mass immune, and you could hit 3 hits, 3 damage, or you could hit, 8 hits, 800 damage. But when you're in Dragon Warrior, you can look at your status screen and you can know exactly, like, this is how much damage I'm going to do. This is the low, this is the high, this is the average. And then you take your average damage and you look at your MP and you're like, okay, this is how many heal mores I can cast, because basically the final fight's boring.
It kind of is.
It's like you swing and then you heal. You swing, you heal. You swing, you heal. You swing, you heal.
Maybe if you're lucky, you get 2 swings.
Yeah, if you're lucky, you get double swings and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it's really just a math equation of, do I have enough mana to do enough heals times my average damage to kill the Dragon Lord, which has I think it has a range of 150 to 165.
Unless you're playing Total Chaos.
Yeah, and then Chaos is something completely different. It's everything is randomized. Things can be just stupid.
It is. End game level red slimes.
Yeah,
And then
they're 250 health blue slimes with dragon breath that give 2 experience.
It's insane.
And then the next thing you could walk onto could be a red dragon with 3 health that gives 200 experience. It's
the wet noodle, as they call it.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's just all over the place. Chaos. I don't really like Chaos, but I played in the last Chaos tournament, and I'll probably play in the next one. It's not... You can tell it just frustrates people to no end because Dragon Warrior... It's actually a really active community. I guarantee you, if you wanted to race, there's something going on in Dragon Warrior every single night. And they play the same flags. They play these standard flags. I think something with Final Fantasy Randomizer that is it's super awesome, but it's also something I think that kind of holds the game back a little bit is there's just so many options for randomization that it's you have a really hard time actually deciding on what people want to play.
Well,
because
there's also the thing of Dragon Warrior, sometimes the game can go on long. But if you're lucky and you're playing, randomizing on the more vanilla set and not Total Chaos, 45 minutes to maybe less than an hour and a half, you're pretty well guaranteed. Even if you're playing pretty easy flags in Final Fantasy Randomizer, you're pretty much committing yourself to about an hour or so minimum.
Yeah.
And if the game decides to be mean in its randomization, you can be there for 2.5 hours on quote-unquote easy flags.
Yeah, there's probably a bigger range of times that a normal Final Fantasy Randomizer flag can be. I really like the game because I just think one of the hardest things is in Final Fantasy is to sit down and be like, hey, you guys want to have a race? Sure, yeah, that sounds fun. Mm-hmm. What do you want to play? And then people are like, well, do you want to do floor shuffle? Do you want to do something crazy? Do you want to do something 500% seed? Or do you want to do something kind of standardish or, normal? And then people just can't. But in Dragon Warrior, it's different because they have what they consider their standard flags. And I'd say 99% of the races that are done under these standard flags. So,
well, but it's also the thing of it's back to that math for Dragon Warrior is because of the tightly plotted way that game is made, you can only scale in one direction or the other too far before the game just doesn't work the way it's supposed to anymore.
Yeah, and it's you're going to get every single spell by level 16.
Yep.
And I'd say in about half of the seeds, getting to level 16 is enough, and to actually beat the game. I've seen seeds where you've had to go to level 22. It's been crazy, and I've seen seeds on the other end that you could beat the game at level 12 because you found heal more and you've been getting crazy strength.
Yeah.
So it does have some really huge swings from time to time,
but it's all on the player. The monsters can only be modified so far, even in Total Chaos.
Yeah.
There's going to be a range for the way they have it set. It's a very tightly plotted randomizer.
Yeah, and Dragon Warrior Randomizer also has you obviously want to get a lot of your experience while you're exploring, but most seeds you're going to end up grinding, which is something that in Final Fantasy people tend to not like.
We try to avoid unless we have a good tile for it.
Yeah, they when we make flags, because I was on the tournament staff for the last tournament that we did, and
Sailed ICs.
Yeah, I was. It was me and Will and Tristal and the admins also. We made those flags. It was a lot. Will, Momo, Falconic's wife, she actually had the core idea from one of her duckling flags, and then we kind of took that and kind of made it more intermediate difficulty, I would say. And we went from there, and so
I mean, the Sail the High Seas tournament that we had it resembles more of the vanilla game than some of the really out there things we can do. It wasn't
it
like
wasn't floor shuffle, it wasn't entrance shuffle, chaos rush.
I mean, we have some really weird modes that we can do, and every once in a while someone comes in and is like, hey, let's try it this way, and they start screwing around with something else. I know I'm working on helping plot out the event that we're going to be doing for the Speed Gaming Live that's coming up in October. And that one we had to pare down the amount of stuff we could do, because it's not like we're not just trying to entertain ourselves. We're trying to do a good presentation for the rest of the speed gaming community, people who may not have actually seen Random 4.
And then, that's another thing, where the Dragon Warrior randomizer people, if they do something at that speed gaming, they're just going to be like, okay, we're going to play a standard race.
Yep.
Where we're going to have, a 2-week debate on what the best flags are to show, because you want to show off everything it can do, because there's an amazing amount of things you can do.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you don't want it to be so crazy. I mean, I've seen people in chat be like, especially with floor shuffle, people were like, what in the world is going on? This does not resemble the game at all.
And that was what we had to do. It's like with Sail the High Seas didn't have floor shuffle or anything like that in there. It was more or less vanilla-ish looking, just with some modifications at the start. And that's kind of what we did. We're not doing floor shuffle for the event. We're not doing
Are you doing town shuffle?
I don't think we are, although I think Caleb's pushing for it, because he's one of the two people. He and, I think, Dangwoo are the two that are going to be playing in it.
Okay.
If we do it, it's the only part of the shuffling that we're going to do as far as the entrances are concerned.
I do think that from the Sail the High Seas tournament, that was the best thing that came of it, was the town shuffle, because in the previous tournaments, mages were completely overpowered because you knew that you could get to Corneria, Provoca, and Elfland.
That's fair.
You could have 4 levels of spells, the first 4 levels of spells, and you could get to basically all those towns in the first 10 minutes. None of those spells were super expensive, and if there was something overpowered, you could just have 3 red mages with 3 nukes and a fighter, and you could just go.
Well, that was part of the problem. Was I think the Magic Shop Shuffle was put in to try and balance that, where it would put all 8 levels randomly through all the towns, but that almost balanced it too far in the other direction.
Yeah, that does balance it too far in the other direction, because it wouldn't be that bad if the actual vanilla 4 levels, if you had access to Fire 2 and Ice 2, that's not too game breaking. But if you find Nuke, Life 2, and Heal 3 at level 4, before you even have to clear anything, you're pretty set to go for the entire game. And then it's just blow up everything that you see, where Town Shuffle made it so that a lot of times you only found level 1 magic. Every once in a while Provoca or Elfland would show up, but a lot of times those 3 towns would be something like, it was always Corneria to start. But
Corneria always has to be there, because you need the pure potions and the soft potions. Yeah.
It would be like Gaia and Lefane in the Intercontinent, and you'd be like,
it's great to know these spells, can't do anything with them right now. Yeah.
and you'd start with Sleep 2 or something on your Black Mage, and then you'd be like, oh, this Marsh Cave is not going to be fun. Whereas before, you could just blow your way through anything. And so I think that was one of the big things that really helped. The free canal, I think, also really helped. The first tournament I did, we didn't have a free canal, and it was the same incentive locations minus the Marsh Cave, and it was basically...
There was one meta to the game, basically.
Yeah, there was one route. There was no extra items. It was basically just a speed run with some randomized aspects.
Well, because that tournament didn't have a lot of the open progression stuff, so you couldn't get over to Dwarves and check out that and Astos' castle. You basically had to go... You could start at Corneria, check the castle, check the Temple of Fiends, and then you basically had to go to Provoca. And
we had a free bridge, so you had to go to Provoca, and then just how the randomizer, insanity check worked was
more than likely you're getting
You're
the
gonna
ship.
get the canoe.
Ship or canoe, and then that was
Yeah.
going to open up either the floater or the ship from there.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
exactly.
it was every time.
So you would go to Provoca, you would fight your pirates. You'd probably get your canoe.
Uh-huh.
You would go check out
But they'd be
Crescent
safe,
Lake.
They would be safe pirates because
Yeah,
they were
safe
from the first
yeah.
tournament.
They were safe pirates. They didn't have thunder. Shout
No-
out to Ice Blue, but
No Fire 3 pirates keeping everyone locked up for a half an hour.
yeah. For people who don't know that, in I think game 1 or 2 of the very first finals, which wasn't really randomized at all.
And it's like the enemy scripts and spells were shuffled, and then our own spells were shuffled,
Yeah.
and it was more or less just a treasure shuffle from there, and
It
fairly
was
vanilla
very
game.
vanilla
Yeah.
routing. Like
Yeah.
you had to basically play the way
The
go
best
in a
you-
vanilla route.
The best you could do is maybe skip Volcano once in a while. Yeah.
But yeah, and so they didn't have safe pirates on, and
Because that wasn't a flag at the time.
and then the king gave you the bridge, so they went to Provoca. Well, the first 2 magics levels didn't have any AoE spells at all,
Yep.
and the pirates had thunder, and you were level 2 or 3,
And they insta-cast it every time you saw them. And you got a pack of 9 of them all casting Thunder. You're dead.
There's no chance.
There's no chance.
But Tristal lucked out and just by the gods of RNG got through it. He just
For some reason, the pirates only wanted to slap him.
they didn't cast anything
Yep.
for 2 rounds
Yep.
and he won. Where Ice Blue he couldn't get past it and he ended up forfeiting. So obviously that was something they put in, but
Yeah.
so basically it was like you were probably going to get your canoe from King Sarah or the pirates
Yep.
because you would need some kind of progression to go from there. And then you'd go down to Crescent Lake, you'd see what the sages have, and then from there, if you didn't have a floater, then you went to the ice cave, which the ice cave at like level 8 was a pain in the ass.
But still better than Marsh.
Yeah.
Because at that point, Marsh was still Ambush Cave. And
Oh, yeah.
Because we didn't randomize that yet, so everything was still difficult to get through in Marsh.
Yeah, and the weird thing was you didn't ever have to actually go to Marsh because nothing in Marsh was incentivized. So
Yeah.
basically what was happening is you went to pirates, you went to the sages, you went to the ice cave. If the floater was not in the ice cave, then you knew you were looking for the ship in the TNT to get out.
Yeah.
But that only happened in like 10% of the flags. And so basically you didn't have to full clear any dungeons. You just went, you went to ice. You full cleared ice because, you didn't want to skip anything.
You hoped there was going to be good gear in there. Yeah.
So if you got to that treasure chest in ice and it wasn't the floater, then you knew you had to full clear to find the ship in the TNT, and just everybody knew that's how you played.
Yeah. There was a very specific route. And things are much more free at this point with how we have things going.
Yeah. I mean, there was a lot more options just based mainly off the fact that there was loose progression items, which made you, basically the last tournament, you didn't have to check any. I mean, you obviously had to check chests to get some gear, but 80% of the races, none of the progression stuff was going to be in chests. So basically the game was check as few chests as possible. Like if you found a couple ribbons early and maybe a good sword, you were just in complete go mode. Hour and 10-minute seeds, were these jet seeds where, the king gave you canoe and Sarah gave you the floater and you were just gone to the races from there. So I think we made a lot of good changes. And this league that we have coming up is, the flags are a lot more advanced, I'd say. Than
They are. I've played a couple of them, and
I've played a couple too.
They're mean. I mean, they're fun. Don't get me wrong. I like difficult seeds, and they're not to the point where you can't finish them.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people are. I know Spellzap and Edgeworth, some of the higher up people in the community, they've been practicing, and they're getting like hour and a half seeds. And I know I've been playing, and I'm like at least an hour over that, no matter what.
Yeah,
and I'm like middle of the pack.
They're tough. I mean, you really have to know what your plan is going in because there's. I mean,
well, we're on the same team. We've been discussing plans on the side that I'm not going to reveal.
It's you, me, Xenoban, Gouda, and then the Taskbot.
Crab cakes.
Yeah, so we got a good team, but
we got the spring tournament winner. We should be good.
yeah. We got the spring tournament winner, and then you got me, who made the semifinals.
Yep.
So it just kind of came together randomly, but that should be fun.
Yeah, should be a good time. And honestly, even the lower end people like myself that are on the team, we're all like pretty middle of the road.
Yeah,
people.
there's nobody on our team. Like Xenoban, like the last race I played in, like Xenoban won. Mm-hmm. Like he got an hour and a half Earth seed. And I ended up losing power in the middle of that race, but I mean it was like an hour and 45 minutes in, and he'd already been done for 15 minutes, and I wasn't even close by the time I lost power. So
yeah, that's kind of that's what happened with me on I was in the race that I one-on-one with Spell Zap. I was an Earth seed, and the way the whole thing set up, basically the canal was the only thing that I needed to get progression going, and canal was buried in an 8th-floor dungeon behind like trap tile with ambush red and kilos, and I'm level 6 and I don't have any good spells. I'm like, this seed sucks. But once I got to it
can be really tricky. My problem is my biggest trouble with floor shuffle is I think that my big brain can just hold everything, and I take notes, I use a tracker and stuff like that, but I need to be a lot more detailed with my note taking, because I need to like keep track of like, oh, this was a good grind spot, or you know, this place I couldn't completely finish it, I only got a couple floors in, I had to turn around, stuff like that. It's floor shuffle is Final Fantasy randomizer on speed. And it really, you know, it tests you.
Well, just wait until they finally figure out how to do proc gen and actually get like randomized floors going.
Yeah, well, we do have that for waterfall and a couple of the earth floors.
The earth ones, the waterfall one works. The earth ones are still buggy.
Okay, yeah, because I know the one that we did, the earth seed we had a proc gen.
Yeah.
Waterfall.
Proc gen waterfall is fine because that one at least understands how to draw itself. The waterfall is basically like whatever the map does, it first draws a path from one end to the other and then like populates it with little things to follow around the side. That makes sense because the game, like just by how it draws the map, automatically ensures there's a path through it. I've run into an earth floor because the earth floors are just basically drop a bunch of rooms and walls and then hope the player can get through it. I've had one where half the earth floor was blocked off by a wall I couldn't get through.
Oh, so, I mean, that would make sense. That's really like... And especially how those earth floors are set up with the walls. Yeah. Like all those little compartments and stuff like that. I can imagine it would be a nightmare to...
Yeah.
And that is definitely not my forte. I'm the if I give anything to the Final Fantasy randomizer community, I'm pretty good at thinking about balancing flags, but that's about it.
And I help with art. I mean, so we're not the coders here.
We're not. I mean, our coders are... I think Final Fantasy Randomizer is the best randomizer as far as just all the different things that you can do. I mean, the choices are endless, and I talked a little bit previously about how I think that's kind of...
It's a double-edged sword.
Sometimes holds back, you know, people just picking it up and casually, like, having races. And, you know, people ask me all the time, like, you know, what should I do to improve? And I tell them just hop in actual races. You know, real races, because the number one thing that you can do when you do a real race is even if you lose by an hour, you can say Edgeworth beat you by an hour,
which he will.
You know, he's known to do that. You can go to his Twitch, you can watch him play the exact same seed that you just played while it's still fresh in your head, and you know, learn what he did, or like this gave you a hard time, maybe he did something that, you know, puts off a light bulb in your head, or maybe you're just like, oh, he just got extremely lucky here, or you're like, oh, he grinded here and then that made that spot a lot easier. You know, you learn a lot, and I learn a lot from watching these people. I mean, I think I'm somewhere in the top 6 or 7 right now, but I think there's definitely like a tier above me. So I'm still, there's like the crab cakes, Artea, Edgeworth, you know, Spell Zaps, basically joined that crew also.
Yeah, I think last time I looked at the list, Crab Cakes was 1 and Spell Zap was number 2, with Edgeworth going up in 3rd. And when Edgeworth is 3rd, you know that there's like good competition going on.
And that would make Artea 4th, which is he's a task bot in himself. Like he is the craziest player. So yeah, I think it's those 4, and then I think Shadow Walker, and then it's me and Tristal, who are kind of tied for like 6th and 7th right now. And I just only to say that, you know, I've played for about a year, but there's still like a tier above me, and I learned quite a bit from like tuning in and watching those guys. So anybody who wants to pick up the game, I've always been big on just trying to put together like pickup races. Like, hey, let's just all get together in an SRL room and, you know, let's have a race and stuff like that, because I don't know if it's like the competitive side in me, but I know SRL points mean nothing at all.
They don't, and yet I want them.
Yeah, exactly. They mean nothing.
Not worth
that rank,
anything at all.
you know, I may not be the number 6 best Final Fantasy randomizer player. I might be the 20th. I might be the 3rd. I don't know.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's something about like, even though these things don't mean anything, when you actually get into a race for these things that mean nothing, all of a sudden I take it seriously. Like, I want to be good. I want to beat these people.
Oh yeah, no,
So it puts me in that kind of mood, and then you know,
before the Earth Week seed that I ran it as part of like a group of, I think it was like 15 people were in there, including Edgeworth. And we did it in an SRL room, and then after we finished it, the race didn't get counted on the leaderboard because no one changed places. And I'm like, where are my points that mean nothing? I got 5th place. I know I stole points off a bunch of people. Where are they?
Yeah, the first thing I did when my power got back on was to see how many points I lost in that race, because they had to DQ me because I couldn't log back in to forfeit the race. So I ended up losing like 28 points or something. I think that did knock me down to number 7, but you know, it's a lot of fun. So anybody who's, you know, trying to get good, I know there's a lot of like the Ducky people, they race together, like Dangwoo, Gregory Puff, Asher. You know, they get together and they race and they make themselves better. And you know,
practice is always like I can tell how much I've grown since I started playing like 5 or 6 months ago to where I am now.
If you go watch your VODs of what you were playing like a couple months ago to what you're at now, it's going to be light years difference.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And it's been fun, and we did get some really nice viewership from Speed Gaming when we were, you know, those finals. I was in a race that one of my semifinal races with Crab Cakes had like 600-700 viewers. I know a couple of them. I know we were featured on the front page once for Twitch, and we got over 1,000. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, there was a while there we were pulling in like 800 a pop at one point, because I know we were beating like Link to the Past Randomizer and a couple of the others, which are usually considered the big ones.
Yeah, so, Link to the Past is always considered like the biggest randomizer. That's the one that has like, that's a game I've literally never beat in my life. Link to the Past. I would maybe like to learn that one day, but
I love Link to the Past, but I know I don't have the manual skill to be able to play that game at the level that rando people do.
Yeah, because there is some like skill to the fighting, like actual kinetic skill to it that I do not have whatsoever. But yeah, they actually have like big cash prizes and stuff for their tournaments, and because they get hundreds upon hundreds of people per race. But
we have bragging rights to the color that we apply to our names. That's about it.
Final Fantasy made it to probably the number 2 randomizer out there. Maybe us and Super Metroid or something like that, but
our ratings are there for it. Yeah,
it's certainly, there was a lot of interest in what we've been working at with the admin team, is, you know, keeping that momentum going. We just, you know, we're wrapping up co-op, which I think was a pretty good success.
It's a big event. I mean, we're doing,
showing people that, oh my gosh, we can actually, that's a whole nother thing, you know, talk about the programmers, like being able to play Final Fantasy co-op is
true co-op, not
crazy.
Just like two people playing the same seed, but playing it together and sharing items. And it's an interesting mode, and it's something that really sets us apart from other ones, because I know, like,
I can't think of any other ones that you can do like that.
No, you watch Link to the Past co-op, and it's still just two people playing and just talking to each other, but they're doing their own seed, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the only other randomizer that does anything as weird as that is, I think, the Z3 Super Metroid randomizer.
Yeah, where it goes back and forth between like two games.
Merges two games.
That's
so
beyond crazy. But yeah, for people who don't know, like our Final Fantasy co-op, if one of your team members picks up an item, a key item, not like a sword or a shield or anything like
Nothing
that,
that
but
goes
like
in the inventory, the weapon inventory. Yeah.
like a key item, if he picks up the crystal or something like that, then it pops up in your inventory too. So you kind of can split up the seed and do those things.
Yeah, it's why we had big floor, like difficult floor shuffle seeds, like, and they were not easy, and people are clearing them in like hour 15, whereas if you played it on your own, you'd be at it for like 3 hours.
Yeah, easily, because you could share information. You could have, like, if you were almost done, you could have one person finish out the items while one person was just sitting there grinding for 5 minutes or whatever.
Well, you get some really interesting party comps. I know the first week that we were doing it, Min and I, we were playing together, we stopped treating it as two separate teams. We were playing as basically one 8-man party with goals that we had to do. Because it's like, the early game is different from the late game, and why have two parties that are good for both when you can really devote yourselves to two different objectives?
Yeah.
So.
Oh, I totally see that. I mean,
yeah.
I played a lot. I didn't actually join the co-op tournament this year, but I've played quite a bit, and it's a lot of fun. I mean, you can do co-op. I've seen us get together and have like 10-man co-ops where we're just like,
it's a blast. It's crazy.
Everybody just gets together in Discord, and they're like, let's just all pick one dungeon. We'll just do it. We'll all just do one dungeon, and then we'll get together, and whoever can beat chaos the first is. I mean, so yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
It's a blast,
and I think anybody, check it out. It's super fun. I mean, Dragon Warrior Randomizer, we're about to hit the summer tournament for that here very shortly, which, that'll be on Randomania. And, last year I think I made the round of 24. I hope to do better this year, but I actually haven't played that often. I really haven't played that much lately, so I need to, put reps in to get good at that game again. So, yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I mean, randomizers, I used to just basically be like a World of Warcraft kid for, a decade. And, randomizers have really become like a big hobby for me. And it's something that, I do restreams, I track, every once in a while I do commentary, though it's not something I do that often. And
like, I love watching people do speed gaming. I think it's a lot of fun. But it's also the same thing. Once you've seen someone run the same game over and over again for a while, you're like, okay, I've seen this game. What else is going on?
Yeah, exactly.
But with randomizer, just like the very act of randomizing it just puts a fresh spin on the game, and I can watch that over and over again for hours.
Yeah, especially, once you know what's going on, and, people in the chat, they know these things are crazy that are happening. And, we had some really awesome moments from the tournament of just like, oh my gosh, you bracked Kraken 2, that was a 6% chance. Or, like Tristal and Will, they ran into that.
The Germadusas of death.
With Death Touch. Just like absolutely destroying them for a half an hour straight.
I think it was like Ambush and Death Touch and Blaze all at once. Yeah. And stupid high ambush rate. Even for like someone who was like level 35, they were still ambushing. It was crazy.
Yeah, it was. The fact that you even got through it was crazy. There was actually a lot of skill to try to manipulate the encounter table to get through just that one earth floor without getting one of those encounters, because getting one of those encounters basically meant a wipe and then 4 minutes to get back there. So yeah, I mean, it was a lot of fun. And yeah, we got the on-rack summer vacation coming up, and then we have the actual true league year 3, which last year that was a lot of fun. And then hopefully we have something going on in like the fall and the winter. So
late fall, it'll probably be a winter tournament the way things are spacing out, I would assume. Yeah,
to kind of keep some momentum going, because I know last year, kind of fall and winter, we really didn't do much, and I think it kind of lost a bit of the shuffle. So I hope we keep it up.
Yeah. We got to keep the energy going. Got to keep things going. I know, like, the second one, like, Link to the Past randomizers event ends, they already starting up the next one because they're so big. So let's go farther afield, since we've just now talked for 40 minutes about Final Fantasy alone.
Yeah, I could probably do that forever.
I'm sure. But let's because we'll get towards wrapping this up, because I usually, unless you're Caleb, I try and keep these to, somewhere close to a half an hour. Long podcasts are hard for people to listen to.
Yeah.
So outside of video gaming, do you have any interesting interests? Anything that you think people might not know about you that you want to share? Things of that nature?
I'm kind of a boring. I work a 9-to-5 accounting job. I go to college to try to finish my accounting degree. I play video games at home, but played a lot of sports growing up. Still kind of play some golf. Disc golf is a big hobby of mine.
It's huge in this area too.
Yeah, I really enjoy it. Just not when it's 90 degrees outside. But
it's hard to enjoy anything when it's 90 degrees outside.
Yeah, I was big into. I was a huge Game of Thrones nuts when it was on. Read all the books, read every forum post, read every fan theory that came about, and yeah, I just binge watch a lot of shows. Some of my favorite shows: Battlestar Galactica, the remake.
Mm-hmm. That was a good show. Right up
Firefly.
Until I was with Battlestar until the last half of last season. That was when it lost me.
Yeah, it got a little weird towards the end, where it kind of.
They weren't quite sure how to wrap it up. It felt
like. I mean, and that kind of like their Earth was
not ours.
Our Earth,
yeah,
or like they came to our Earth, and that's how humans came to this planet we're on now.
It was very weird. But until that point, though, it was great.
Oh, it was an amazing show.
Yeah.
I just bought the box set of it on Blu-ray, and it was. So yeah, that's kind of my life. College randomizers kind of fit into the whole college thing pretty nicely. I can, if I have a couple hours of free time, I can get on and do a race.
Yeah.
I also actually speedrun on my channel. Some RPGs. I basically just Final Fantasy 1 vanilla. I've been working on that for a while.
I can't go back to Final Fantasy 1 vanilla. It's so slow now.
I know. They actually
randomizers ruined me.
2 days ago, I was streaming an any percent Final Fantasy 1, and Randomania hosted me. And so like 60 people who were just watching co-op, Final Fantasy Randomizer co-op, were all of a sudden watching me play super slow-ass Final Fantasy 1.
Vanilla.
And people were like, oh my god, my eyes, how are you doing this? How are you buying one heal potion at a time?
Oh, it's so painful.
Rearranging your party every time you're poisoned,
I do love that. It's watching that at like AGDQs and so forth. Like, okay, read some donations. We're going to literally be here for 5 minutes buying potions.
We need to buy 99 potions one at a time.
And
then 27 tenths and 15 pures.
Yeah.
And go bloop, 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 bloop.
Yeah.
For 5 minutes straight.
5 minutes, yeah. Just
But I've always wanted to beat the game in under 3.5 hours. Right now I'm like number 10 on the Final Fantasy 1.
It's impressive.
Speedrunning chart.
Because there's a lot of people that run that game despite how slow it is.
Yeah. There's some really good people who have done it. Like Geyer is... some guy just set the world record a couple months ago at 2 hours, 54 minutes.
What was the party comp he ran?
Fighter Black Mage. That's what...
3-man it?
Yeah. 3-man. I can't imagine any other party actually being quicker. I tell anybody who turns into my stream, like, when you're actually doing Fighter Black Mage, you've got maybe like a 1% chance of beating the city, finishing the seed without having major wipes.
Yeah.
That would cost you 10 minutes,
Yeah.
So it's a really low percent chance of actually beating the game when you turn it on. There's other speedruns, there's other party compositions that people use, like Fighter, Red Mage.
Yeah.
For the marathons, just
safer.
There's what's called a marathon safe route, which is basically I know I can beat the game, but it takes 4 hours instead of 3.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but it's still cool to, beat Final Fantasy 1 in one sitting. A game that took me months when I was a kid. You can do it in an afternoon.
Sitting there grinding in level 15 just to get through Marsh Cave because Marsh Cave sucks.
Yeah, you had to buy a silver sword.
Yep.
You had to buy a silver sword to have any hope of killing the wizards, and those wizards still end probably 25% of the run. Like, if you get 4 wizards, your run's basically over. If you got 2, you're good. 3 is really kind of. 4, you're done.
Yeah.
And then you get to Lich, and Lich basically has a 50-50 chance to kill you because she always first turns Ice 2, and that'll kill your mage 50% of the time before he can get really any significant damage off. And then Topher is just, man, I had a run that was 28 minutes better than my PvP. I was gonna finish something like 3:15, which was like a huge goal for me, and I got to Kraken and he crit me 3 times. And I was like, and I had quite a bit of people watching me too, and it was interesting. So yeah, that's kind of what I do. Graduating fairly soon, so
Congrats.
Hopefully I will have more free time to, do more hobbies. I've actually been thinking about, taking up some live action stuff that's here in the area. I can never get up the nerve to actually do it, but I've always kind of wanted to. But,
like LARPing?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a group that does it in Carmel.
Okay.
Or something like that, and I've always wanted to do it. I always think it sounds fun. I always really liked that show that I forget what it was called, but it's something I've always wanted to do. But they say they do it at a public park, and I'm like, I can't bring myself to do that in a public area. Like, I would love to do that at a campground, secluded, and have fun and like immerse yourself. But I just can't see myself beating each other with swords with somebody pushing their baby stroller.
Yeah.
That's the one thing that holds me back from it.
Like,
but
I like gaming myself, but I've never been able to get into the concept of LARPing because I just want to be at, like, if it's not at a table with like a bag of Cheetos and a Dr. Pepper sitting next to me, it doesn't feel like gaming anymore.
I can feel that, and I've never done it, and I might do it and be like, this is just too much for me. But it's something that's always kind of interested me to, like, I don't know if, I guess in my mind, like, thinking that, getting that immersed into something for a weekend could be fun to just, get away and stuff like that. But for me, it's more of the get away for a weekend, not the, do it just for doing it, and in more of like what a Renaissance fair kind of situation would be. To me, the actual like escapism of it is actually what sounds fun to me.
Have you heard of the Society for Creative Anachronism?
Yes, I used to be in that.
There you go.
Man, I haven't done that for like 15 years.
Probably about as long as it's been for me. Yeah.
Yeah, when I was in high school, we had a couple buddies who did that. Geez, my buddy Sheldon bought like a complete suit of armor for it. Just to beat each other with rattan sticks and is it rattan or rattan sticks. Or something.
I guess it depends on who you're talking to too.
But yeah, that's a lot of fun too. It's something that, if I had time, I would love to do something like that. But adulting sucks.
It does.
When you work 9 hours a day and then you have to go home and do more work, and then
I just remember there was a lot of like the big event where you could just go and basically take up a campground and watch people fight, and do a feast, and that sounds like it's basically what you're looking for.
Yeah, that sounds, to me, that just sounds like a really fun weekend of doing something like that. I know they have something up in Quebec that's called Bicoline, which is like this guy who owns like hundreds of acres have just let people come in and like build a medieval town if anybody like actually Google the place, it's incredible. But people need to go for like 2 weeks, and it just looks like the craziest shit ever. And it looks like you really are like escapisming to this other place for 2 weeks. And anybody interested in anything at all, look that up. I bet it's like probably $1 million to go to it. Not really $1 million, but a crazy amount. But that's kind of that sounds like something that would be interesting to do. I'm actually pretty new to this town that I'm living in. Came from a much smaller town, so I'm still trying to kind of get my head around living in a town of 1 million people instead of a town of 900. So
it's a bit of a change.
Yeah, it's a big change.
It's a big change. Well, Tyerenex, I appreciate you coming on the show.
No problem.
It's been a lot of fun chatting with you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you, neighbor.
Since we live in the same town.
We do.
Yeah, unlike the other podcasts I've done for this interview series, Tyerenex actually lives in town with me, so this is a face-to-face for once.
We're doing this in person.
The audio is going to sound much better this time around. This has been Not So Live from Asteroid G. I am Mike Finkelstein, joined in the booth by Tyerenex, and we will see you next time.